ancient, sun-drenched land of Moab, King Balak stood atop his towering palace walls, his eyes filled with a deep, chilling dread as he looked out at the horizon where the world seemed to change. Below him, stretching across the vast valley floor like a great white sea, was an endless, shimmering expanse of Israelite tents that seemed to go on forever, covering every inch of the parched earth below. These people had already crushed mighty nations and toppled legendary kings with a power that seemed unnatural, and now they camped ominously at Moab's border, waiting for the signal to march forward. If they chose to move their massive host forward, Balak knew in his heart that nothing in his kingdom would be able to stop them from consuming everything he had worked so hard to build and protect. Moab's warriors were legendary for their strength and ferocity, but against these people, Balak felt like a child holding a wooden stick against a coming storm that would soon level the entire forest. This was a nation whose God had split the literal sea and shattered the might of Egypt's chariots, and Balak realized that no physical sword or human army could stand against such a divine force. Unless, of course, he could find a way to turn their own God against them, shifting the spiritual tides so that the protection surrounding Israel would crumble and leave them vulnerable to his own steel. Driven by desperation, Balak sent his fastest messengers riding hard through the scorching deserts, their horses kicking up clouds of red dust as they raced toward the mountains of the east on a secret mission. They carried vast riches of silver, gold, and royal gifts wrapped in fine silks, for their mission was to find a man whose reputation was feared across all nations, a mysterious and powerful prophet named Balaam. It was said by everyone from the merchants to the kings that whomever Balaam blessed was lifted high to glory, and whomever he cursed was brought to absolute ruin and cast into the dark depths of history. Night had fallen over the desert when the messengers finally arrived at Balaam's home, and the prophet stepped outside with torchlight flickering against his weathered, wrinkled face as he greeted the man. Before him, the high-ranking officials of Moab stood with their arms full of heavy gold and shimmering silver, their voices sounding as smooth as silk as they laid out the king's desperate and wealthy offer.
I see him.
King Balak offers you great riches beyond your wildest dreams, they told him. Only come with us now and curse this nation of Israel for him, and he will reward you with a position of power and wealth.
My master has a proposition.
Balaam looked at the gold, his eyes reflecting the yellow glow of the metal, but he replied to them firmly, I can only speak what the Lord commands me to say, regardless of the wealth you bring tonight.
Silent.
He invited them to stay the night,
come inside and
promising that in the morning he would tell them exactly what the Lord wanted him to do. And as the house grew quiet, the very air began to vibrate with a holy presence. The voice of the Lord spoke through the silence of the room, vibrating in Balaam's soul with a clear and terrifying authority. Do not go with them. You shall not curse these people, for they are blessed. The divine answer was as clear as the desert stars. The next morning, Balaam stood before the royal messengers and said, Go back to your king. The Lord has strictly refused to let me go with you today. The messengers returned to King Balak with the news of Balaam's refusal. But Balak was not a man who accepted defeat easily, especially when he felt the breath of his enemies on the back of his royal neck. He immediately sent more officials, men of even greater rank and power, carrying even richer gifts of jewels and ivory, turning what was once a mere request into a formal and heavy summons from the king. The messengers arrived and urged him with renewed intensity. Let nothing keep you from coming to the king. He will reward you greatly. Simply name your price, and the entire treasury shall be opened. Balaam answered with a shadow of pride in his voice. Even if Balak gave me his entire palace full of gold, I cannot go beyond what the Lord commands, for I am but a vessel for his holy words. Yet that night, despite the previous clear warning, Balaam asked God again, and this time the answer from the heavens was different. Go with them, but only speak the specific words I give to you. And so, before the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Balaam saddled his faithful donkey and set out for Moab, completely unaware that the road ahead would test much more than just his simple obedience. The morning sun blazed over the dry, cracked earth as they traveled, and the road ahead seemed perfectly clear to the prophet. But suddenly, without any warning, the donkey stopped dead in its tracks. Balaam frowned in confusion and pulled hard on the leather reins. But the animal refused to move an inch forward, for the donkey could see what Balaam's human eyes were currently blinded to by pride. Before them, unseen to the prophet, a mighty warrior stood in the middle of the path, a being not of this world, a towering angel of light with a face like lightning and a presence that chilled the air. Balaam, growing angry at the delay, struck the donkey once, then twice, and then a third time, shouting, "Move, you stubborn beast," as he prepared to beat the poor animal into submission once again. Then, as he raised his hand for another blow, the donkey's mouth was opened by divine power, and she spoke in a clear voice. "What have I done to you that you have struck me these 3 times?" The miracle of a speaking animal froze Balaam mid-swing, but his heart was so hardened by his own stubbornness that instead of recoiling in shock, he answered the donkey as if it were a common man. "Because you have made a complete fool of me." Balaam snapped at the beast. "If I had a sword in my hand right now, I would kill you where you stand for your defiance and your strange behavior." The donkey's voice remained calm and filled with a strange wisdom. "Am I not your own donkey, which you have ridden all your life? Have I ever behaved like this to you before in all our years?" Balaam hesitated, the anger slowly draining from his face as he realized the truth of the animal's words, and he whispered, "No, never," just as the spiritual scales finally fell from his tired eyes. Before him stood the angel of the Lord, sword drawn and radiating a fearsome, holy presence that made the very earth beneath his sandals tremble with the weight of the celestial warrior's power. Balaam fell instantly to his knees, his heart pounding against his ribs in absolute terror as he realized how close he had come to a violent end at the hands of this messenger of the Almighty God. The angel spoke with a voice like thunder. "Why have you beaten your donkey 3 times? I stood in your way because your path is reckless and your heart is not aligned with the purpose of the Lord. If your donkey had not turned aside and saved you, the angel continued, I would have surely struck you down where you stood
Forgive me,
and
old
spared
friend.
her life,
I was
for
blinded
she was
by my
more
own
faithful
pride.
than you are today.
You are wiser than I knew.
Balaam bowed his head even lower into the dust and cried out, I have sinned. If my path truly displeases you, I will turn back this instant and never look toward the kingdom of Moab again. But the angel's gaze did not soften as he gave his final instruction. Go on to Moab, but you shall speak only the words I give you. You are a tool in the hand of God, and nothing more or less. Balaam rose slowly, his limbs shaking and his pride shattered into 1,000 pieces, understanding now that he was walking a thin line between divine favor and a quick, holy destruction on the road. The long road to Moab stretched ahead, shimmering in the heat, and when he finally arrived at the great city gates, he was met by a royal procession of chariots and warriors bearing the king's sigil. King
At
Balak
last
himself
you
stepped
arrive.
forward, his face a
Come,
mask of
speak the
frustration
words that
and
will
relief
save my
as he
kingdom.
cried out, At last you have come. Did you not believe my messengers could make you the wealthiest man alive? But Balaam's eyes were distant, his thoughts still heavy with the memory of the angel's flaming sword. And he replied, I have come, but understand this, O king, I can only say what the Lord says.
I can only say.
The king, ignoring the warning, replied with a sharp gesture, Then let us waste no more time. Come. The people you must curse are waiting just beyond these hills, and my altars are ready for you. As night began to fall over the rugged landscape, Balak led the prophet to a high place called Bamoth-Baal, a sacred hill that offered a perfect, unobstructed view of the vast Israelite camp below.
I can make you wealthy.
Fires burned in great stone braziers, the scent of burning wood and sacrifice thick in the air, as Balak pointed a trembling finger toward the thousands of flickering campfires in the dark valley. Look down there, the king hissed. There are people too numerous to count, swarming like locusts over my land. Curse them for me now, and let their strength be turned into a withered weakness. Balaam stepped forward to the edge of the cliff, but instead of lifting his voice in a dark curse, he turned his face toward the heavens and felt the Spirit of the Lord wash over him like a flood. He opened his mouth to speak, and instead of a curse, a powerful blessing poured forth. I behold them from the hills, a people set apart, mighty and blessed by the hand of the Creator himself. Who can count the dust of Jacob? He cried out into the night wind. Who can number even a fourth of Israel? Let me die the death of the righteous, and let my end be like theirs in glory. Balak's fists clenched until his knuckles turned white, his jaw tightened in fury, and he turned sharply on the prophet. What are you doing? I brought you here to curse my enemies, not to bless them. Balaam's voice did not waver as he looked the king in the eye. Must I not be careful to speak exactly what the Lord puts in my mouth? I told you that I am not the master of these holy words. The king's face darkened with a mixture of rage and desperation, and he growled, Come, we will try again at another place. Perhaps there, from a different angle, God will permit a curse to fall. But Balaam already knew the truth in his heart. The Lord had spoken his blessing, and no man, not even a powerful king with all the gold in the world, could change the decree of the Almighty. Balak led Balaam to the high peak of Pisgah, where ancient stone altars stood cold against the starlit sky, and the priests hurriedly prepared 7 more sacrifices to appease the divine spirit. With his voice taut with a frantic expectation, the king said, "Perhaps from here, the Lord will see things differently and allow you to curse them, so that my kingdom might finally be at peace." Balaam stood before the smoking offerings, his eyes closed as he waited for the word. And once again, when he opened his mouth, a second and even greater blessing came flowing out like a river. God is not a man that he should lie, Balaam proclaimed. "Behold, I have received a command to bless. He is blessed, and I cannot change it. He has not observed misfortune in the tents of Jacob. The Lord their God is with them," he continued, his voice echoing off the rocks. "The shout of a king is among them. There is no sorcery against Jacob, and no divination can touch Israel's soul." Balak's face twisted in a mask of pure fury, his hands balled into trembling fists as he shouted, "Enough of this nonsense. If you will not curse them, then at least do not bless them anymore." But Balak's patience was completely gone. He seized Balaam's arm with a rough grip and dragged him to yet another high place, the peak of Peor, which overlooked the vast and silent wilderness. This was his last hope, his final attempt to bend the divine will to his own fear. "Surely here you can curse them," Balak insisted, his voice a frantic mixture of royal command and raw desperation. Once again, Balaam prepared the stone altars and the sacrifices, but this time he did not even bother to seek for omens or signs as he had before, for he knew the Spirit was already moving.
Behold.
Instead, he fixed his eyes directly upon the wilderness where the tribes were camped, and as he gazed upon the orderly rows of tents, the Spirit of God came upon him with an irresistible power.
This altar.
"How lovely are your tents, O Jacob," he sang out, "your dwellings, O Israel, like valleys that stretch out, like gardens beside a flowing river, like cedars planted by the very hand of the Lord. Water shall flow from his buckets," the prophecy continued. "His king shall be higher than Agag, and his kingdom shall be exalted above all the nations of the earth in the days that are to come." Balak staggered back as if he had been struck physically, his mouth opening and closing as he tried to find words. But his rage could no longer be contained within the limits of his royal dignity. He turned on Balaam, his voice a low, dangerous growl of betrayal. "Enough! I called you here to curse my enemies. And 3 times now you have done nothing but pour out blessings upon them." "Leave my sight at once," the king screamed. "I would have made you the wealthiest man in the world. But the Lord you serve has kept you from my rewards and sent you away with nothing." Balaam did not flinch or blink in the face of the king's royal wrath. He stood tall and replied, "Did I not tell your messengers that even for a palace of gold, I cannot go beyond the word?" Then, before he turned to leave, Balaam looked out toward the distant horizon one last time, and with the heavy power of the Spirit still resting upon his soul, he spoke a final, haunting prophecy. It was a vision that reached far beyond the immediate conflict, far beyond the kings and the tents, reaching into the distant future of mankind and the coming of a light that would never fade. "I see him, but not here and now," Balaam whispered, his eyes wide with a vision of the ages. "I perceive him, but far in the distant future. A star will rise from the line of Jacob's children. A scepter will emerge from the heart of Israel." He continued, his voice filled with a holy awe. "He shall crush the foreheads of Moab and break down all the sons of Sheth in his great power." The king watched in a stunned silence as the prophet finished his words, the weight of the prophecy hanging in the cool night air like a physical presence that could not be ignored or pushed away. Without another word, Balaam turned and began the long walk back toward his own land, leaving the king standing alone amidst the smoke of his failed altars and the reality of his own defeat.
The smoke ascends.
The Israelites remained in the valley below, unaware of the spiritual battle that had just been fought on the mountaintops above them, protected by a blessing that no human king could ever break.
For me before it is too late.
Balak looked down at the tents once more, but now they didn't just look like an army. They looked like a chosen people, anchored by a promise that was older than the mountains and stronger than gold.
A star will march.
The lesson was etched into the stones of Moab, that man can propose and kings can command, but the final word belongs to the one who holds the stars in his hands and the breath in our lungs.
Themselves among the nations.
As the sun began to rise on a new day, the road back was quiet, and the prophet Balaam rode his donkey in peace, reflecting on the mercy of the angel and the power of the words he had spoken. If you found this journey through the ancient sands of Moab and the miraculous story of Balaam interesting, please consider subscribing to our channel for more cinematic retellings of faith. These animations take a great deal of time and effort to produce, and your support truly helps us continue providing you with these amazing and high-quality videos for your enjoyment and study.
Of the Most High.